Welcome to People Skills, featuring a human male named Joe. Here we see the young millennial male in search of his midday meal. He has to brave a crowd of his peers. Let's see if any interaction develops between them.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, man, do you want to come join us for lunch?
Yeah, sit with us.
Great, I just got to microwave this real fast.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so 3
Crap fish. If I don't cook this, I'm gonna get salmonella and die. If I do cook it, everyone else is gonna get sick from the smell. Death might be the better option.
It's way better than this kale you're eating. You need to go tomorrow and get one.
Yeah, food, am I right? You gotta eat it to live.
Joe, is your food burning or something?
Crap, distract them.
Oh, I think somebody might have broken the microwave or something.
Oh, it smells like a rotten fish.
Yeah.
Dude, like, seriously, what are you cooking, man?
Whatever you do, don't say fish.
It's like a rice thing.
Rice thing with rotten fish. Oh. It smells like sushi from a dead raccoon. I'm gonna be sick. I'm seriously gonna be sick.
In the vernacular of his species, this male has screwed the pooch. Join us for the next episode of People Skills to see this stinky young man fight another day.
Well, that's right. We are in a series called People Skills, where we are learning how to have real relationships with real people. And today we're talking about how to have meaningful conversations. Hey, if we haven't met before, my name is Matt Castleman. I'm the community pastor at Crossroads West Side. That's right, the west side of Cincinnati. Shout out to all my West Siders watching this. It is great being with you here today. And we're gonna have an opportunity now to sort of reset, to take a breath and to focus ourselves on who God is. Maybe you had a really hard week. Maybe your kids are screaming in the background right now. Maybe you are stressing over that bill that needs to get paid. Right now, pause all of that and let's turn our attention to God during this time of worship.
Created from dust, you came and you lived among us. You took on our frame, you walked in our pain, and now you're taking us higher. You stepped into time, you laid down your life to save us. You took all our shame, on the cross it was laid. Now you're taking us higher. So we go from glory to glory to glory. We'll never be the same. We'll never be the same. We go from glory to glory to glory, and we're forever changed. We're forever changing. You call me your friend, brought into your endless kingdom. By the blood I was made, no longer a slave, and now you're taking us higher. So we go from glory to glory to glory. We'll never be the same, no, we'll never be the same. beyond the grave. So not even death can shake us. The victor has won, and heaven has come, and now you're taking us higher. Oh, and now you're taking us higher. We go from glory to glory to glory. We'll never be the same, no. We'll never be the same. You take us higher and higher and higher. And we're forever changed. We're forever changed. Come on. And we go from glory to glory to glory. We'll never be the same. We'll never be the same. You take us higher and higher and higher. And we're forever changed. We're forever changed. We go from glory to glory to glory. We'll never be the same, no. We'll never be the same. You take us higher and higher and higher. And we're forever changed. We're forever changed. Sing this. We've nowhere else to go. We've nowhere else to turn. We're kneeling at your door, singing, come near, come here, God. We'll sing that again. We've nowhere else to go. We've nowhere else to turn. We're kneeling at your door, singing, come near, come here, Lord. In that same posture of humility, we call out to him. We'll sing this again together. Oh, we've nowhere else to go. We've nowhere else to turn. We're kneeling at your door, singing, come near, come here. We need your kingdom now. Exchange it for our doubt. We're kneeling at your door, singing, come near, come here, God. Come near, come here, Lord. Come near. God of the breakthrough, your promise to stand true. You haven't failed us yet, no. You haven't failed us yet. A miracle maker, our hope and our Savior. You haven't failed us yet. You haven't failed us yet. You've shown us who you are. Oh, you etched it on our hearts. So we're crying out for more, singing, come near, come here. So pour your spirit down as our praise is rising now. We're crying out for more, singing, come near, but come here, God. Come near, come here, Lord. Come near, God of the breakthrough. Your promise to stand true. You haven't failed us yet, no. You haven't failed us yet. A miracle maker, our hope and our Savior. You haven't failed us yet. You haven't failed us yet. You've shown us who you are. You've etched it on our hearts. So we're crying out for more. We're singing, come near, come here. So pour your spirit down as our praises rising now. We're crying out for more. We're singing, come near, come here, God. Come near and come here, Lord. Come near, God of the breakthrough. Your promise to stand true. You haven't failed us yet. You haven't failed us yet. Our miracle maker, our hope and our Savior. You haven't failed us yet. No, you haven't failed us yet. Oh, God of the breakthrough, your promise to stand true. You haven't failed us yet. You haven't failed us yet. Oh, miracle maker, our hope and our Savior. You haven't failed us yet. You haven't failed us yet. Oh, you haven't failed us yet. You haven't failed us yet. We've nowhere else to go. We've nowhere else to turn. We're kneeling at your door. We're singing, come near, come here.
Kind of sobering to go through one of the areas of Dayton that's been devastated by a tornado, but it's pretty great to see so many Crossroads folks from Dayton here and other Crossroads folks from other cities who migrated into here. You know, we don't hear that much about God anymore in our culture, less and less and less. Unfortunately, a lot of times you hear the name God is when a disaster happens, it's referred to as an act of God. Wrong, not an act of God. This is an act of nature. Nature is broken, our world is broken. An act of God is us being here. Is God's hands, God's feet, God's boots on the ground being here to help people, to cut down trees, to tarp off roofs, to pull off debris, to show people who are here, your God has not forgotten you. And if you don't know your God, we're here to help represent him. I hate being in ministry in times like this, and I love being in ministry in times like this. I hate it because you get back in touch with some of the human suffering that's in our world, but I love it because you get to feel God using you. Hey friends, let's never forget that we're here not to play church, we're here to be the church. We're here to meet people in their time of need, whether it's a marital crisis or a roof being blown off. Let's keep being who God wants us to be as a community in every community in which we reside.
Oh, God of the breakthrough, your promise to stand true. You haven't failed us yet. No, you haven't failed us yet. Our miracle maker, our hope and our Savior. You haven't failed us yet. You haven't failed us yet. Oh, you haven't failed us yet. You haven't failed us yet.
A go trip is about going. Going outside of your comfort zone. Going to a new place. Going beyond normal, going where you want to go instead of where you've been. Your normal life is getting you as far as you can go. And where are you going right now? You're going the way of normal. If you want to go further than you are right now, you have to go outside of what you're comfortable with. And that is the role of go trips. They're beyond normal. They stretch you, they push you, they give you actual capacity. Muscles you didn't have beforehand that now can take your normal life beyond the normal. And you get to help people. You get to take on actual physical problems and make a difference in somebody else's life, in the trajectory of their family and their village. People you encounter will be changed because you stepped out and you went on a go trip. Let's go.
Let's go. Go trips are a big deal, and we want you to go on one of them. You know, there's something that happens when we stretch ourselves outside of our comfort zones, outside of our zip codes, where we encounter God in new and fresh ways. Not only are we encountering Him, but we're actually getting to do His will in the places that need it most. We go all over the place, places like New Orleans, Nicaragua, Bolivia, South Africa, India, and we would love for this year to be the year that you and your friends and family go. And the good news is, you can sign up for it right now. No delaying, no more excuses. You can sign up at crossroads.net/go, or if you're near one of our physical locations, stop in there for an info session after services this weekend. You know, my family and I got to go to India and South Africa, and amazing things happened. Not only did we get to do God's work in these places and meet the people, we also got to meet people in our own community, and our relationships are deeper than ever before. You know, life is not a solo sport. Things are better together. In fact, God calls us into community. And so if that's you, whether you've been attending and watching and streaming for a long, long time, or maybe this is your very first time, I think connection and community is vital, and it's important, and most importantly, it's possible for you. If you'd love to get plugged in, take a next step, getting some people around you, you can visit crossroads.net/getconnected. Well, right now we have an opportunity to be generous, and the reason that we are generous is because God is a generous God. He gave His only Son. He sacrificed it all for you and for me. And right now we have a chance to be generous, and our church has decided to be generous. I'm sure you have heard some of the national news about the tornadoes that have devastated northern Dayton. I think the latest fact that I heard was 40,000 people are still without power. Homes have been ripped through. And so we have community in Dayton that has been impacted by this. And our church has decided to be generous and give an unbudgeted $50,000 for tornado disaster relief. Not only do we want to be generous with our giving, but we want to be generous with our time and our people as well. And so if you feel called to be a part of helping repair the areas that were ravaged by this tornado, there's info right here at the bottom of the screen, or you can visit our Crossroads Facebook page to learn how to get your hands dirty and how to chip in. We're going to go to 10 different neighborhoods, things like roof tarping and tree sawing and debris cleanup. There is a role and there is a need, and we would love to mobilize hundreds of people in our community to help be there for them in this time of need. And so right now, if you'd like to give generously towards this effort and towards God calling our church to many different things, you can visit crossroads.net/give to give that way as well. And while we do that, we're gonna hear from some people who have encountered God in the midst of community.
Life just kind of sucked.
I had all these friends, but I felt empty.
I felt the most alone when I was surrounded by people.
I wanted something more.
Something real.
This is a story about people.
It's about having real friends.
A person I can trust to see the best in me on my worst days.
People who change the brakes on your car in the cold.
The first person I call when I don't get that promotion.
Babysitting your kids when you're desperate for a night out.
Bringing over food when life feels crappy.
Having people help me move into my apartment.
What does real friendship mean to me?
Real friendship looks like being able to express any emotion without judgment.
Someone who tells me the truth and allows me to feel like I can be myself around them.
Somebody that will dance with you when things are really great, like that all-out, crazy, who cares who's looking dance.
Laughing until you pee your pants a little.
Living with purpose.
Messy, sometimes.
It's meaningful.
So, yeah, that's what real friendship looks like.
The people in our life is what defines the happiness of our life. That's what does it. It's not more money. Those more would always be nice. It's not the climate in which you live. It's the people in your life. And we have to be the right people to get the right people. When we get the right people, we need to do various skills we're going to talk about today. So let's pray before I go any further. God, I thank you that you have brought us here today. I know all of us could be at a lot of different places, maybe outside in beautiful weather, but we're in a dark room. We're in our living room or a coffee shop because we want more of you. We want more of your wisdom as it relates to people. Help me to be clear and helpful and do something unique in our life today. And I pray these things according to the character and identity of Jesus. Amen. Jesus is the most astounding person who ever lived. One of the things we have to do to be better people and to be relationally vibrant is to not be all that predictable. Some of us are just monotone in terms of how we're around people, what we do, the way we act. We have to have a breadth of human expression in order to be interesting to people and in order to really have an interesting life. And when Jesus is around, you can't just put him in one little box. If you looked at snippets of his life, you go, oh my gosh, this guy is really like crazy. Oh my gosh, this guy is really like happy. Oh my gosh, this guy is really wise. Oh my gosh, he has a very wide palette from which he paints. It's very easy to look at the Bible and go to one extreme in the Bible instead of live in the midst of the tension in the Bible. Examples, what do I mean by that? The Bible talks about having faith, and the Bible talks about work. So what is it? Am I supposed to work real hard to honor God, or am I just to have faith? Well, there's biblical tension. Both of them are true, and there's biblical tension that's there. Am I supposed to, what is God? Is God one, or is God a Trinity? Three. What is he? One? Well, yes, he's one, and yes, he's a Trinity. There's tension, and there's biblical tension that's there. Well, is Jesus God, or is he man? Well, he's both, but there's a tension in there. And when we look at Jesus' life, his snippets from his life, we have to recognize he can't be narrowed down just to that one snippet. Let me give you two extremes that are both true and both great. First, and they'll come back to back in the book of John. In the very beginning, we see Jesus does his very first miracle. It's when people realize, oh wow, this guy is really different. It's a very odd scene. He's at a wedding. They run out of wine. At the wedding, and his mom wants to keep the party going. She wants to keep partying, apparently. She doesn't want to see the festivities die. And so she goes to Jesus and says, son, I know you do some powerful things. How about turning some water into some wine? How about doing that? And he says, it's a really odd interaction. He says, woman, calls her woman, what are you pushing me on this for? Now's not my time. He knows that once he does his first miracle, the cat's going to be out of the bag, his life is going to change. But he wants to please his mother, and he thinks it's an okay idea, so he does that. He said, hey, bring me some wine, or some water. They bring him water, and he changes water into wine. Crazy. Now, some people would say, well, actually, Brian, the Bible doesn't like alcohol, and it wasn't really wine. It was this like juicy substance, this grape mash substance. No, it wasn't. The wine steward who understands what wine is like, here's what happens. When the master of the feast, that's the wine steward, tasted the water, now become wine, and did not know where it came from, he said, everyone serves the good wine first, and when the people have drunk freely and gotten a little loopy, then they sneak the poor wine in. But you've kept the good wine until now. You didn't bring out the Riunite Red at the end, you brought out the Opus. Man, some of you don't know what either one of those wines are, because I don't even know, is Riunite Red still made? Yes, it is, and if you don't know what Opus is, you have nothing to waste your money on. But he's like, wow, no.
The wine steward understands when alcohol is a Jesus, his first thing is to make, so you can look at that and go, oh my gosh, so Jesus is just this party fanatic. If he's a party, okay, hold on. The very next story, the very direct next one, it describes him going to worship, and he's got his friends with him, his disciples with him. And he comes into the temple, and there's this outer court area where people are kind of prepping for worship and being in tune with what's happening in worship, kind of like our atrium, basically, or any of Crossroads atriums. And he sees people who are making money inside of this place. They're selling doves to be sacrificed at an exorbitant amount. They're taking currency as people come in from other nations, and they're changing the currency so they can make a cash offering, but they're charging exorbitant fees. And here's what it says. And making a whip of cords, he drove them all out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen, and he poured out the coins and the money changers and overturned their tables. And he told those who sold the pigeons, take these things away. Do not make my Father's house a house of trade. Wow. He's getting this whip thing. Probably has a sash around his waist. He's taking it. It's like whips. He's doing it. Just coming to the table, just overturning a table. He says, get this out of here. You're making this. My Father's house is not a money-making opportunity for you to pad your pockets. It's supposed to be a place of worship. This scene has actually been very influential at Crossroads. I don't know if you recognize it or not, but if you go to any of our buildings that we have, you'll never find a bookstore or a resource center inside of any of our churches. It's because of this. Because when Jesus gets angry and turning things over, you probably should stay away from it. So honestly, it's a reason, that's the reason why you can never buy a book. It'd be really helpful to mention a book, then you can go out and pick it up and all kind of stuff. It'd be very convenient for you. But nonetheless, we go as it relates to our buildings, when people are coming in to worship and connect with God, we're going to stay away from them. We're not going to sell anything on the weekends. It's because of this verse. By the way, if I were to sell something this weekend, what I would do, and I would just tell you this because I care about you and I care about the men of your life. I'm hearing this from guy after guy after guy after guy that the 5 marks of the man has been unbelievably helpful. Unbelievably helpful. Great Father's Day gift. Great Father's Day gift. You might want to think about that. I also read it on audible.com if you want that. I'm not making any money from you right now, but to help you, you ought to just think about that. Anyway, nonetheless, here you have with Jesus, we have these two extremes. Which is he? Is he the party guy, like making wine? Or he's like the hardcore, no, turn over tables. Well, he's both. There's a tension there. And there's something for us to learn about that in our relationships. You are probably one of two extremes on some scale. I'm going to give you a scale today in just a moment, but you're probably in one extreme of one aspect of your personality. I want to encourage you, I want to push you to widen your bandwidth, widen your relational bandwidth, widen your emotional responses, widen the tools that are in your toolbox to have conversations and to interact with friends. This is what Jesus was. This is who he was. And the more we can be like Jesus, the more effective our life is going to be and the more powerful our relationships are going to be. So let me clue you into a little paradigm we're going to talk about here today. I've got a matrix we're going to talk about. I've got the x-axis and the y-axis. And on this axis right here, this is high invitation. So when you're up here, this is high invitation, and this is low invitation, okay? On this axis, this is challenge. So this is high challenge, something is very, very challenging, and someone's giving very, very challenging words, and this is low challenge. The key to our relationships, to understand them, first of all, is to understand where they are in this matrix. So I just gave you two extreme differences. Jesus was invitational. He's wooing people to him like, who doesn't want to be around a guy? Who doesn't want to be around a guy who's making wine, making the party go on? He's incredibly invitational.
And he's incredibly challenging. He's overturning tables. He's like sashing all over the round. And it's like, we would go like, oh man, I don't know if I want that, but there's something about the combination of those two things that makes him incredibly powerful. So let's look at how these things are right here. So over here, this up here, we have high invitation. When someone is incredibly invitational, but you notice they're not very challenging. That's initially fun, but after a while, when someone is just happy clappy all the time, it actually gets a bit tiring. There's a limit to how many jokes we can hear. There's a limit to how much we can just see somebody smile. Like, how you doing? I'm doing great. Everything is just there's just a limit to what that looks like. It can become actually this is the wrong one. Yeah, this word actually works both. It's actually tickled. We just get tickled, right? The thing about when you get tickled, eventually it just bothers you so much. Like initially you're laughing, but then eventually you don't want any more of it. When you're around somebody who is incredibly challenging, and that's all they're always challenging, and there's not a lot of invitation, it gets to be very trying. This could be, for some of you, your manager at work, right? Your manager comes in and he's just like, bam, it's always goals. It's always not, maybe it may be that way with her, maybe not. It's always goals. It's always, if you've got someone who's just always about the hill, we've got to go get the hill, we've got to improve, we've got to do the, eventually it becomes incredibly trying. Over here, when we have somebody who is low challenge, low invitation, we're always very tired to be around them. We're tired. It's like, oh, here they are. It's like they're NyQuil. Whenever they come in our presence, it's like NyQuil. Because we're not getting anything out of them. They're not going to be encouraging to us. They're not going to make us laugh. And they're not going to push us in any way. These people just get very, very tired. When you're around relationships and people who have high invitation, they're fun to be around, they're wooing us in, they've always got a good anecdote, maybe they got a joke, maybe they just want to serve you, maybe they want to pay for dinner, anything that invites us into their circle, and they've got a level of bite to them, a level of challenge. They're not just frill. This is where trust forms. We become very, very trusting of these people. They're just secure to us. So what we can do right now is you can probably define every relationship you have inside of one of these 4 quadrants. Let me even help you out. Let me go a little further. Down here, when you're around people who are only challenge, let's go. This is about drivenness, purpose, accomplishment. When we are around people who are just always, they're always like having a funny quip, or there's always like everything is all good, actually they get very dull to be around. It's kind of like when you're tickled, eventually you're like, I don't want more. Remember, they eventually get dull. They eventually wear us out. Here, this is just death. This is death. It's like, I do not want to be with them again. This is a death of a relationship right here. It's just, there's nothing there. Eventually, you realize, I don't ever want to be with this person. But up here, there's real depth. There's this vibrancy to it. I have a few friends who came in last week. I've had these friends since I was in college. So 30-some years. We don't see each other all that much. It's hard for me to remember the last time I saw them, but they came in, and Man, it was great. We sat on my front porch. I stayed at my house just for one night. Stayed on the front porch, stayed up way, way too late. I don't remember the last time I was up past midnight on a work night. Don't remember the last time on a work night. It happened this night. I played catch up with sleep the rest of the week. It was really, the reason was is because it was deep, man. It was deep. And we cut right to it. We cut to issues in our life that were very deep, very sensitive, very, very tender things. And it's because we were trusting. It's just there. The time is there. We're operating up in this quadrant. That's why we may not see each other for a decade, but when we do again, boom, it's bam, it's right there. Because at one moment, we're laughing about we're laughing about all the stupid things we did in college. We're laughing about how we started this junior high camp and the stupid things we did in this junior high camp. Ridiculous things we did in this. We're laughing about that. And then the next moment, we're talking about the challenge that we have in our life right now. And this just brings depth. All these things have examples. Up here, I had a phone call a while ago. It's from a friend of mine, and he called me up and he said, "Hey, Brian, I want to tell you something. Just want to confess something to you. I did some porn last night." I'm like, So I thought it was like silence. So like, what's my next reaction? I said, so tell me, what was it that led you to do that? And he immediately comes back and goes, "That's why I called you." He said, "I just talked to another one of our friends, and I told him, and he said, 'Oh, don't worry about it. We all do it. Don't worry about it.' And he said, I knew when I called you," he, in essence, was saying, "you weren't going to tickle me." Because there was a level of challenge. That's this right here. This over here is actually, some marriages are like this. It's like when you're in a marriage and all you're trying to do is, let's improve our marriage. Let's improve our marriage. How do we improve our marriage? Man, if I heard women say this a lot of times. Anytime you have a conversation with your husband, say, "I want you to be a spiritual leader in the home," wrong conversation. Never works. I also go like, what do you mean? I think if you saw me in my home, I'm not sure you would think I'm the spiritual leader. What do you mean by that? You mean like lead a Bible study every day? What do you mean? I don't understand. But that is like a complete crusher of intimacy with a guy. I need you to be, it senses this driven, and you end up being very, very trying here. Now, if you're, incredibly invitational, and then you're having that conversation once in a while, over here, this tends to be just the default people that we've been spending time with for a while. And this is also where many of us reside who call ourselves introverts. Really, we're not introverts. It's just these are the only people we have in our life, so we'd rather be by ourselves than be with them. Really. I believe in being an introvert, and I also know some people who are non-introverts, they just have some awful friends who don't give them life. It's death. So you may as well be an introvert if that's the way. All of our relationships can get into one of these quadrants, and the more we can start moving our relationships, all of them, into this quadrant, the better it is. If we can get up and to the right, that's awesome. But the more we can be migrating here, the better it is. So that's one thing to look at, is looking at where are all my relationships in this. Another thing to look at that is, where I'll spend the rest of my time today. Which one am I? How am I with people? Where would people put me? Just kind of down here, just kind of tired, just hanging out with them, always been around like an old shoe, tired old shoe. They put me up here as just a happy, funny guy, or the guy who's always buying drinks for people. They put me here as the slave driver, always wanting to have an accountability thing. Let's have an accountability conversation. They put me there. This is why I got out of a men's accountability group. Well, I have accountability in my life, very significant accountability in my life, but for a while, all the rage was male accountability groups. They were awful. Just awful. Just a bunch of guys getting together, trying to find something wrong with your life, and it ends up just being a bunch of guys confessing lust. It ends up what it is. But just getting together and like, come on, we got to get more and more, and just that, without like laughing with one another. Man, maybe we're like this. Everything has to be some goal or some project. Maybe we're in this area. I tell you what, if you're in this area, I know one thing about you. You have more people who want to spend time with you than you know how to find for them. Because people want somebody who's fun and invitational and will speak something that needs to be said and will be challenging. Now, I think a lot of us understand what it means to be invitational, but I'm not sure about the other. In the book of Hebrews chapter 10, 24 to 25, again, we see both of these aspects in this verse. Let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, to stir it up to love. In other words, let's think about how we can challenge each other to love each other in good works. Let's challenge each other to get to Dayton, perhaps. Let's consider doing that, and then watch what it continues to say. Not neglecting to meet together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, all the more as you see the day drawing near. Who likes being encouraged? Who likes being encouraged? Okay, great. Who never raised their hand whenever they're asked something in church? Who is that? Because all of us do, right? All of us do, right? All of us. We all want that. Jesus was encouraging and he was stirring. He was invitational and he was challenging. Classic story of that with him. I'm just giving this just so you see this is not something I've made up. This is through the life of Jesus, why he's so attractive and so profound and so world-changing. And he'll change your life if you let him into your life and you give him your life. He'll change your life if you live like him and invite his truth into your life. This one crazy scenario, he goes to the well to draw water, and when he goes, he meets this woman. And interacting with this woman, he says to her, hey, I've got some water that will quench your thirst, and you won't need anything else. Would you like some of that water? That's incredibly invitational, right? Like a wooing of what kind of what? Even the fact that he is a man talking to a woman in public at that era and that time is mind-blowing. Like, men aren't supposed to talk to women in public in first century ancient world. It's not supposed to happen. And he does that. It's incredibly invitational. And then he says to her, I have this interaction. He says, hey, why don't you, let me read it. Here's what it says. She says, John 4, 15 to 16. Now, I gave you already something bam, bam in John. The very first, basically, story in John about Jesus. The second story about John and Jesus. We've got the wine. We've got the whips. And now we've got this one just a couple chapters later. She says, sir, give me this water so that I will not be thirsty or have to come here to draw water. And Jesus said to her, go call your husband and then come here. The woman answered him, I have no husband. And Jesus said, you're right, I have no husband, for you've had 5 husbands, and the one you have now is not your husband. What you said is true. That's pretty challenging. Pretty challenging. Sets her up. Bring her husband. I know, I just want to say, 5. What's your freaking problem? You got 5. In fact, you're with one right now. No, you're married to him. What is your problem? What's your deal? He doesn't say it that way, but that's what's happening here. That's what's happening. That's what's going on. Now, the really wild thing, because it almost sounds like he's too harsh with her. It almost sounds like, oh man, 5, the one you're with right now, oh, what you said is definitely true. He throws that on that little jab at the end, that little challenge at the end. You almost expect this woman to go away like, I feel so. She doesn't go away that way, though. Doesn't go away that way. Here's what it says. So the woman left her water jar, went away into town, and she said to the people, come and see a man who told me all that I ever did. Could this be the Christ? Why does she leave her water jar there? I believe she leaves her water jar there because she's planning on coming back immediately to get it. Why take her water jar all the way there when she wants to come back to interact with this guy right now? And she basically becomes a one-woman advertisement band. She says, you got to meet this guy. You got to meet this guy. He was amazing. He was amazing. He's like very invitational, this guy, very challenging guy. He just laid my life. You got to see him. You got to be around him. This is what's really powerful when we're around someone who is challenging us. They're challenging us always because they've earned the right to challenge because they've been very invitational. They understand how to have fun. They understand how to be encouraging. They understand how to laugh. And this sets them up for this. Ran across an article. I love the title of the article. Jesus was not nice and you shouldn't be either. Nice is, we're just up here. We're just very nice. This is what we're very dull when all we are is nice. It says this. No one likes to hear that they are wrong. Not now, not back then. But Jesus was willing to tell people when they were wrong because he loved them more than he cared what they thought of him. Hard conversations are not easy. They've never been easy. I want to spend the rest of our limited time together just helping you to have some hard conversations. How do you do that as a good friend? How does that work? I've got so many examples of hard conversations people have instigated with me that have gone really, really bad, and a lot that have gone really, really good. I remember some time ago, a guy came and he just had, some. He was hurt by things I had done. He was hurt, and justifiably, he definitely had some points. But when he confronted me, when he said to me, he said, "You treat me like a used condom." I don't even know exactly what that is. I don't want to get into my sexual history with you, but I'm like, not exactly even. It was so like that when someone says that, it's hard to receive anything they say or look for any truth in what they say. It's so over the top and offensive, if you will. You're just kind of like, you block it out. Another difficult conversation I get probably every year right around this time, actually. I haven't had it yet. I'm probably going to get it in the next week or so. Darren Yates, our executive pastor, he normally contacts me right around this time. I said, he'll say something like this. He'll say, "Hey, this is kind of the time of year when you start to get tired. And you're normally getting ready to go away for the summer, and just be recognizing that you get a little more curt than normal right here, right this time of year." I get it. He's telling me I'm a butthead. So I got it. But when he delivers that challenging information that way, it's something I go, yeah, that's right. See, nobody ever changes because I just got to get this off my chest. You got to get something off your chest. Nobody is going to be helped. Nobody is. We challenge because we want the best for the person. We want the best for the relationship. So I'll spend the rest of our time talking about when you challenge. Some of us maybe need to hear how you're invitational, but I think this tends to be where the biggest rub is, the most difficulty is, where the most hurt happens, and maybe where the least amount of joy is of entering into these high challenge invitations. Let me give you some things I've learned that we also see in the scriptures. 7 checkpoints I go through. One is this. Actually 6. First checkpoint is, am I a liberal encourager? I know some of us don't want to be a liberal, but in this area, you have to be liberal. Am I a liberal encourager? One way to ensure that someone will hear us here is if we are very high in our encouragement. If I am high in my encouragement, this goes really, really easy. If I'm not high in my encouragement, then it never goes well. What makes a difficult conversation difficult is when we aren't convinced that the other person holistically wants the best for us. So I'll say it again. What makes a difficult conversation difficult is when we aren't concerned that the other person holistically wants the best for us. That's why street preachers are awful. There's a special place in hell reserved for street preachers. I know God loves them, I think. Maybe not. I don't know. That's why anybody holding a sign, just giving challenging information of return or burn, get right or get left, anybody who does this stuff, no one ever changed. I've never heard a story of it. Yeah, and they're walking by, and then this street preacher who was screaming, just like the Spirit of God hit him, was like, oh my gosh, God loves me.
I really understand forgiveness. I think I'm going to give my home. No, that never happens. Never. Never, 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 never. Why is it? Because it's not coming from somebody who has any history of liberal, ongoing encouragement. It's the first checkpoint. I just ask myself, have I given this person adequate encouragement? It doesn't mean that I can't challenge them if I haven't given adequate encouragement. It just means that if I haven't given a healthy dose of encouragement to this person, this is going to be that much more difficult, and I've got to be that much more careful. Does that make sense? Understand that? Second checkpoint that I go through on this is I do tone awareness. I practice my tone. I practice in my mind, I practice my tone. Like, here's the same words, different tone. What do you hear? Here's one. Hey, could you help me understand? Or, help me understand. Same exact words coming from the same person. Help me understand is going to be immediately putting me on my heels, but hey, could you help me understand? I'm going to help you understand what? How can I help you? Tone is everything. I will practice my tone, and I'll practice my lead-in statement just to hear it and to make sure it comes out okay. This is critical things that are happening, and I care about the person, I care about the relationship, and so I practice before I preach to you guys. Every Saturday at 2 o'clock, I'm preaching in an empty room with a bunch of people who are helping me make it better because I care about everybody who's hearing me anywhere at Crossroads right now. I care about it. So if I care about you, why wouldn't I practice wherever I am? Why wouldn't I practice to get my tone right? 3, choose a foundational question. I find that starting off with a question is the best thing to do. Choose the foundational question. Just recently, I talked with a member of my family. And I thought, oh, how do I bring this up? How do I bring this up? And the question I arose on, and then I practiced it a number of times. The question was, I went to this person and said, hey, do you believe that I have a responsibility before God to be the leader of this family? Do you believe I have a responsibility for God for that? And then the person like, yeah? Okay, I got something I've got to talk about right now. Okay, totally different than just coming in and unloading. That's a question I just used in the last couple weeks with one of our family members. Or here's another way I put it sometimes with different folks. Can we have a conversation that just stays on the intellectual level? That's easy because you got someone that both people know, like, okay, we're going to try our best to not get emotionally wounded here right now. Can we just stay on an intellectual level? Can we try to do that? Here's one. Are you ever hearing about something that's been bothering me? That's a question I've used. Another one is, hey man, you know I'm a huge fan of yours, right? Of course, you've got to be a huge fan of theirs. You got to be convinced that they're going to say yes, right? You got to do that. Like when someone leads with this question, like, hey, can I give you some truth and love? No, you cannot. When someone says, I want to give you some truth and love, I'm like, head for the hills. There's never any loving. There never is. Questions are huge. 4, use an and statement. This is almost getting to the end of its shelf life because people are catching on to this. But we all know that when someone says, you know, you're a really nice guy, but we just go, okay, he doesn't believe I'm a nice guy. It's all been leading for this. But if you say, you know, you're a really nice guy, and if you just substitute an and in there, you increase your likelihood they'll stay open to hear what you're saying because I do believe that, and let's talk about that. Now, more and more people are doing that, so eventually it's not going to work anymore. But as long as you can, that's a good one. I use an and statement. Number 5, make sure you give the difficult information in 3 sentences or less. This is not a sermon. This is not a diatribe. Like when you're up here with the encouragement, like people are like, oh, really? Tell me more. They want to hear more. And it's good. I bring it in. When you're here, like there's something, when someone is challenging me, it's almost like I can feel my heart is just, like the skin is that much thinner.
I could just feel everything. In fact, every word somebody gives me, I put a whole encyclopedia of information behind that one word. It doesn't take many words for someone to say, you were a bit harsh in that meeting, and I've been seeing that in you more and more. Mic drop, forget it. Like, enough. Enough. They probably have enough information. When you're over here, like, they're going to think about that if you deliver it right, they're going to think about it for a long, long time. 3 sentences or less. 6, last one. Last thing I do at the very end is, as the conversation goes, give and take, I'll say, so, does that make sense? Does that make sense? It tells them, because I want to be a learner here and I want to serve you, I'm holistically about you. Does that make sense? Now, again, I don't do all 6 of these steps all the time nor perfectly. I don't. I do know that if the only time we're challenging is when we are venting, we're never helping. Venting never helps anybody. Venting never builds up any friendship. How is it that Jesus, a builder from Nazareth, how is it this guy is able to lead tax collectors and business owners and women and old men and young men and rich men? How does he do it? Yes, he is God, so that helps. And, man, he invited people and he challenged people. If you learn to get yourself up into this quadrant, the depth and significance and meaningfulness of relationships will blow your mind. God, help us have our mind blown. Bring to us people who we can be deep with. Bring to us people we can encourage. And bring to us people who can challenge us. Thank you, Jesus, for being the ultimate example. Amen. All right, have yourself a great weekend. Next weekend, I'm fired up. It's the end of the world. It's coming, and we're going to help you. We'll see you then.
Good stuff. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the end of our People Skills series. And speaking of the end, our new series coming up next weekend is called How It Ends. Spoiler alert, it's pretty awesome. I know thinking about end times can feel pretty heavy and scary, but the reality is it actually ends pretty well. Unlike Game of Thrones. I'm over it. As always, it's a great opportunity to invite your friends, your neighbors, your family to the start of a new series. And speaking of the end, next weekend is going to be the end of our Saturday streaming. We're putting more effort towards making our Sunday experience awesome. So as always, check out Crossroads every hour on the hour from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next for the start of our new series.